Hello, and welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today is, I almost said January 7th. It's June 7th, and we're doing government and security news.
Boy, it would suck to have to go back to January of this year, wouldn't it?
Back to March.
March is always the time to go back to.
It does feel like that.
I only vaguely understand that joke.
You were kind of out of it, yeah. You kept going back to it. Every time you thought we were doing a rewind to March.
Did anybody buy that t-shirt? I don't think anybody.
I don't know. I think we got it out a little too late. I worked with our T guy, but he just had some backups.
Store.level1text. You know what's a perennial bestseller? Teaching Sand to Think was a mistake.
It is.
Well, let's talk about the. Now, you might be thinking this is a little bit of a stretch for a tech story, but I disagree because this shows how technology and the invasiveness of the government into your technology through your job can be a thing, especially if you work for the government.
Exclusive. The Supreme Court leak investigation heats up as clerks are asked for phone records in unprecedented move. This headline will make absolutely no sense to you if you don't know the context. The context of this
Who doesn't know that?
is that apparently the Supreme Court has decided that women are no longer allowed to get abortions, which is weird.
We don't know that for sure yet.
It was leaked.
It was leaked.
Yeah.
But we know it for sure.
And there's an investigation. It's like, who leaked this? We have to figure this out.
And we'll do anything to find the leaker.
Now, there's a, was it leaked because it's a terrible decision or a good decision or whatever?
No, it was anti for sure.
Yeah, well,
Anybody who was pro that would just let it happen.
but was it leaked for that reason, or was it
Yes.
leaked because they wanted to create a distraction so they wouldn't take up the gerrymandering Supreme Court case?
It was leaked because they wanted the outrage machine to try and stop it. I mean, it's worked for like the online censorship stuff,
Oh yeah,
the CSAM bills.
yeah.
So we've definitely got examples of crazy laws or legal rulings that people have got out in front of to stop.
This is also, but as far as the Supreme Court goes, this is the first time there's been this kind of a leak.
Because the clerks, being a Supreme Court clerk is like winning the lawyer lottery. They only take the best. And once you've got that on your resume, you write your own ticket wherever you want to go. So one of these people was serious enough about this topic to risk everything. And I think we're fairly certain it's a clerk, right? Because nobody else has access.
Fairly certain.
But it is digital stuff, right?
What if it was China the whole time?
That would,
Oops, all China.
what a play by Putin.
Or the Pegasus malware. If you're a clerk, pro tip, go install the Pegasus malware right now.
But when you call NSO, don't use your regular phone because they're going to be looking into that.
Yeah.
Well, it's always nice to be able to say USA #1.
Yeah.
USA.
And it's really nice
USA.
when you can say it about stuff like, good topics, not like tyranny or debt or something like that.
U.S. retakes first place from Japan on the top 500 supercomputer ranking. ORNL's Oak Ridge National Labs Frontier HPE Cray EX with AMD CPUs, the first true exascale machine. Woo, AMD Epic, yeah.
Quite a bit of a lead it has too.
Yeah. It's a compute per watt too. Like compute power efficiency was one of the things that they're going for. It's really impressive, and this is a comment that may turn out to be prescient when we talk about like the desktop CPU wars. But AMD has been relentlessly focused on efficiency, and that they're also able to get out a desktop CPU, which desktop CPUs are not as power efficient as server CPUs. That they've been able to sort of kill two birds with one stone in terms of the microarchitecture. That genuinely very impressive. It's going to be harder and harder to do that going forward.
Didn't we also just beat Japan in hot dog eating? That might have been a couple years ago.
That makes sense.
No, you talking about Kobayashi?
Maybe?
Our guy has been winning that contest for a long time now.
USA.
Joey something or other. He's got a nickname.
Of course he does.
Chestnut. Joey Chestnut, I think is his name.
Oh, what's the chestnut for? Shouldn't
That
be
might
like
not
hot
be
dog
right.
eater? Yeah.
Does Buc-ee's have appealing looking hot dogs?
I don't know if Buc-ee's has hot dogs. It's hard to get a good grip on Buc-ee's just because of the madness of the crowd. You're basically just like, you get a glimpse
go,
of something
yeah.
and you grab it. Yeah.
You go where the crowd takes you, but they have to have a hot dog spinner. Every gas station has a hot dog spinner.
remember. I think if they have a hot dog, it's probably like a little bit fancy, like a sausage or something like that.
A brat.
A jerky dog.
Yeah.
Well, here's a headline that probably isn't going to shock too many people. We've certainly been hearing echoes of this and personal reports that seem to indicate this kind of thing, but it seems like they've got some evidence.
Amazon repeatedly violated union-busting labor laws, says historic National Labor Rights Board complaint. So some of the evidence from this is leaking out, and oh boy, it does not look good. Now, these are not Amazon employees doing this, but it was a union-busting firm hired by Amazon who apparently didn't know that people have cell phones and record things.
So the big issues here, first of all, there are now laws that you have to be able to put up competing literature. Amazon did not tolerate any of that. But more importantly, you're not allowed to just get everybody in a room off the record and be like, hey, if you vote for this, it will be bad for you. They did that over and over, according to these guys.
They did that over and over, and there's apparently a lot of evidence to that.
There's a paper trail for that. Yeah.
Oops, was there not supposed to be a paper trail? Should we not have done that? Yeah, well,
We could kind of forgive them for forgetting about phones, as they do ban them, although not anymore, because of the unions.
And also because some people died.
And the FBI has protected us again. I'm always a little weird about when the FBI just steals a domain. It's like, should we give them that authority? That could definitely be abused.
They should get a better designer at least.
Yeah, it's always the same kind of screen.
It is,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's always awful. And we've discussed in the past, it's critically important to get full-size logos for every agency that was involved.
And you know that someone was like, can we make ours a little bit bigger? Just a little.
This domain has been seized. The FBI seizes the domain and used to sell stolen data and DDoS services. I love how ipstress.in is a domain name that implies there's at least a legit service. It's like, we can stress test your IP address, but it turns out that I, as an individual, can hire them to stress test Walmart.com, and I'm not on Walmart.com's tech support list, so Walmart might not like that.
Krista, you should get the domain ibstress.in.
Yeah. Then they'll seize mine and put that horrible design up too. Except they'll put it in Comic Sans just to spite me.
Remember when Customs and Border Patrol seized OnePlus's earpods because they look too much like Apple's earpods? And this is the road that we head down.
Although these guys it really was a marketplace for stolen data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not in question. That's their stated mission goal. And here's a heartbreaker. And we actually have several other stories this week that are related to this kind of thing. And it's just, we had a glimmer of hope, but the lobbying is too powerful.
California right to repair bill dies in Senate committee. Apple and some other companies are responsible for torpedoing this. With fear.
All the big tech
Not
companies.
fear, with money.
Fear money.
Yeah.
If you repair your own iPhone, it could explode the next time you touch it to your ear.
I don't know if it was, did I have the tractor story?
Yeah, where the guy wanted to repair his tractor.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and it's the same argument. I think that was from that story, but it fits here too. It's always like, if we let you do this, you'll do it wrong, and there'll be damage to the environment and yourself. Which in a tractor, maybe a little bit better argument than an iPhone.
Yeah.
Isn't that true of also like working on cars or PC? Like
Almost anything.
yeah. You can hurt yourself. But I mean, that's the price you pay for wanting to repair it.
In your computer right now, in the BIOS, there's an option that says like California ERP ready or ERP ready. That's there as an environmental control. And it is on by default, but if you turn it off, your computer performs better because it uses more electricity.
Which is terrorism.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So, the right to repair is you don't get to turn that off anymore in BIOS because...
You might hurt yourself.
And that's the argument they made about the tractor too. It's
Yeah.
like, if we let you, you'll turn this off and it's bad for the world.
Yeah.
Because it's not bad for the world to hold tractors hostage as we starve.
Yeah.
And the government is doing a lot to prep for the election. And unfortunately, a lot of what they're prepping is to restrict our speech.
Connecticut will pay a security analyst $150,000 to monitor election memes for misinformation.
What a great job.
I got some bots. I can do that way cheaper.
Although 150K is a lot more than the Facebook people are making, but these guys do have to troll 4chan all day.
Yeah.
That was in the job description.
Do you think they have a folder of ones they think are funny?
Like no.
They're like, oh, I want to get rid of that, but also I'm going to keep that for my personal stash.
That's a good question. Is the person who takes this job just doing it pure mercenary, or do they have to be on the Kool-Aid?
Would you want somebody that's on the Kool-Aid versus...
No, because they would be technically incompetent. Yeah. Tough decision. And in Texas, they tried to fight back against the censorship, but in kind of a partisan way, admittedly. That also not allowed.
Supreme Court blocks Texas social media law that tech companies warn would allow rampant hateful content. So this is Twitter basically saying, if you do this, we're just not going to moderate anything, and then it'll be bad.
Well, I think that's what they want, right? Just no moderation.
Well, that's what they say they want.
I think that's good. No moderation sounds good to me. Just ignore the things you don't like. Oh, here, you know what? I should have sorted these together.
Oh,
wow.
There it is.
It's already been
I
foreshadowed
thought that was
to
in a
death.
different section, but I guess not.
Right to repair equipment removed from North Carolina Senate bill. Why it matters. It was removed in kind of an underhanded way. Like if you look into details, it was just, we want to torpedo this. Okay, sounds good.
But it was that same argument.
Yeah.
Like, oh, bad for the environment. You could hurt yourself. You're too dumb to do this.
You can make that same argument about cars, but we allow people to fix cars or your home.
And arguably the average farmer is more prepared to do that than the average motorist.
Wow, that's racist. But I mean,
but in favor of farmers, so I'm kind of okay with it.
But like you could make that argument about almost anything. Yeah. Certainly anything you plug into the wall, right?
Oh, yeah.
That'll kill you. And this headline might seem a little obvious, but I think the big word that everybody, this is a paywall alternative, but the big thing everybody seized on was that O word, which up until this point, we'd kind of been careful
pretending that we're not. Yeah.
That's not happening.
U.S. ramps up offensive and defensive cyber operations. The offensive there might have been just for the headline, but because
it's in the quote that guy said.
Yeah,
in the original article,
let's not kid ourselves.
It sounded like it was preemptive. It's like they're trying to get into this system. We are preemptively using that system to take this other system offline, and it's like, well, I guess that's offensive.
But is it an act of war?
It's going to escalate that way, I'm sure.
That kind of thing has been going on both sides for a while now.
Yeah, for sure.
Hope the Nginx people are okay.
And some bad news for Apple because they have this ongoing battle about the cables, and this does not look good.
EU is a deal on a single mobile charging port likely June 7th in setback for Apple. So lightning cables are no more for the EU. I think engagement challenge, if you're in the EU, do you want your phone to have a lightning port or are you happy with USB-C? Because it's an arbitrary decision.
It makes sense. Didn't they prove that USB-C works just as well?
There is, in fact, some videos where somebody has modded their iPhone to have USB-C ports, and it worked fine.
They just want to sell more chargers.
Yeah, it's all about, well, not just that, but also to make you feel special. It's like,
I can't use your filthy Android cable.
Yeah. Oh, no, I need a lightning cable.
Who wants that, though? Like, who's like, yeah, when I'm going through an airport, I want to carry 20 cables.
Well, some people are desperate to separate themselves from the pack, even when it makes very little sense.
Excellent segue.
France bans English gaming tech jargon in push to reserve language purity.
This is not a first for France. They have a whole academy that deals with this. Like, they don't want a lot of loan words. They also like fight back on stuff like, I think like the word for professor, they didn't want to use a feminine version of it. They're like, no. In French, we say just professor.
What's the feminine version of a professor?
Professorin, maybe? I don't speak French. Someone in our chat can tell us. Yeah.
Oh, wait. No, you're saying... I don't understand that argument. So they have a gendered version, but they don't want it?
They don't want it. Because that's not how French was traditionally spoken.
Oh.
They think that is an outside influence. So there's a lot of stuff like that, though, that's not just about like gender stuff, but just like loan words. They're like, don't use loan words, like in this case.
Wouldn't the woke version be not to gender it?
Maybe. I don't think it's a woke thing. I think it's literally just a French language snob thing.
Yeah, the construction of the language always has masculine and feminine things.
But no one's going to use this, okay? Because let's look at the worst example.
Word, yeah.
The worst example is streamer, which is one word, 2 syllables, and it becomes, well, you can speak French, right?
Joueur, amateur, indirect.
Wow.
Someone who speaks French is going to be like, ugh. Like when I try to speak German. It's hillbilly German.
Somebody just popped a blood vessel.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very long word.
I would
that's
rage
French.
if I was French. I would rage against that.
But that's the thing, though. Like, well, I guess the French riot for everything, right? That's their other stereotype. But like in the U.S., if someone tried to tell you how to speak, people would be like, "Screw you! I'm using the other word."
Hard drive, which is 2 syllables, is disk dir non-immovable.
Chris, there's a lot of words I've stopped using because the mob would destroy me for it.
But I mean, saying
And I ain't
like,
happy about it.
like if the government was like, "You can't use this word anymore," people would be angry. About
Once
that
again,
in the
when
US.
I'm Twitch streaming, often I have to replace words. Often. Now, did we learn that Google had kind of shut down completely in Russia?
Well, their bank account was seized, so they had no ability to pay staff, and so they're like, well, guess we're not here anymore.
So I guess this is for past offenses. Is Google going to take? Are they going to pay attention to this? Or are they just going to be like, all right, we're done?
I think this is
it's motorcycle season. Sorry.
Right. My office is ground zero for annoying motorcycle noises. We didn't think about that.
yeah, that might be bad.
I don't know that these mics would pick it up, but maybe you guys can tell us.
We're
in
going
the
to find
comments.
out.
We'll
Yeah.
find out.
Anyway.
Russia opens cases against Google and other foreign tech over data storage. This just may be a legal means to get access to the funds that are in the bank account that has already been frozen.
I guess they could just extract their
Yeah.
penalties from that.
Yeah.
And then legally.
Legally just bleed it off.
But the companies abandoning Russia have not stopped. And one of the holdouts, we figure out why they're a holdout, because they did a lot of business in Russia.
HP turns its back on $1 billion in annual sales by quitting Russia and Belarus. Revenue hit for HP larger than many other tech providers post pullout PC, but the printing giant stays the course. Also server giant, although that's HP Enterprise.
And that's something like 1/16 of their annual income.
Yeah, although I think one of the stories in the business section talks a little, like it mentioned some of the upturn and some of the other stuff, said that in the last couple of weeks, things have actually been improving since the pullout for other companies that have left, including server production chips, computers, etc.
Wait, since what pulled out? HP?
No, because other tech companies have already pulled out and their stock went down and it was a revenue forecast, blah, blah, blah. But then everything went back up because they've managed to,
Oh, I see. What you're
there's
saying.
enough of a shortage that they didn't really sell less stuff. They just
Right.
sold it elsewhere.
There was a gap in the market. Yeah.
And they're able to raise their prices.
Yeah.
Considerably. Taiwan has taken a very comical step toward Russia because they're still going to let some chips in there, but it's such a weird rule that, like, do you think they'll even bother to get any of these? I mean, I guess you could run some infrastructure off this kind of stuff, but not much else.
Taiwan restricts Russia and Belarus to CPUs under 25 megahertz in frequency. Not just under 25 megahertz, but also less than 5 gigaflops and can't be wider than 32 bits and a whole bunch of other restrictions. Can't be more faster than 0.4 nanoseconds gate-to-gate propagation. This is... So the shortages right now are really weird. We actually have a worse shortage situation at the very low end of the market. Think programmable microcontrollers, stuff that would go in like a stove or a TV set, things like that. And so this actually... I don't know. I don't know that this will really...
Move the needle.
Yeah, because those chips that they're proposing to still sell them, other markets would still buy up all the ones that were available in the market. So
This could be their way of saying, like, no, we didn't cripple you. We didn't endanger your people. You could still get these garbage chips. That would be enough.
you can still buy toasters.
What if this led to like 10 years from now, Russia has all repairable tractors and it's good for them?
Oh.
Singapore is more and more getting on the new world of digital transactions and going into the future. This I'll worry about.
Singapore to pilot digital asset trading with blockchain and tokenization. Project Guardian will explore the tokenization of financial assets, including potential decentralized finance applications and wholesale funding markets.
So that's a lot of word salad to basically say they're going to try to do what Robinhood did with fractional shares of a security. So you got one share of Amazon. Is that still like 1,200 or something? I guess it's down now, right? Obviously, some people can't scratch together that much money. So you buy that, you hold it, you split it into tokens, and you sell the tokens for a smaller amount. Sounds like a mess.
Using blockchain to keep up with it. You know, if that were done transparently, a lot of the kinds of fraud that we see with things like GameStop and shorting, and it's like, oh, we've totally closed their positions. No, they didn't. That would go away because every trading day you would have a blockchain to be like, we had this many shares, we borrowed this other many shares, we shorted this one, and it all reconciles.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people might hear that and be like, well, we already have that. The stock market does that. No, look up dark pools. Dark pools are a big part of the problem that we have.
That's dark pools are not auditable in the way that a blockchain is.
I think, didn't Musk tap into some of those when he was getting his Twitter money?
He sure did.
And again, with Ukraine, a bad sort. You know what? I missed it by one.
Well, you could say something about blockchain to bike chains. It's a good segue.
Like, what is it? Swords to plowshares, except the other way around?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, the bike doesn't do anything for the farm. It's more recreational. But it makes total sense because, you watch those satellite images and the tanks are small, but they're very visible. So what do you do if you want to hide from that?
Ukrainian fighters take to electric bikes in the war against Russia. This is a rabbit hole for you to go down more than an article about what's going on, because Ukraine is doing a lot of really interesting stuff with technology and lithium-ion batteries and e-scooters and e-bikes and motors and things like that. So they're repurposing electric bikes that have lights and mirrors and stuff, taking all that off, making it so that they can be used for personnel carriers, making it so they can recharge equipment, making it so that they can power Starlink terminals.
Or driving them up hills to sniper spots where they can't be spotted because they're so small.
In addition to all the other stuff.
And they put the off-road tires on them. They basically just made them war machines.
Yeah.
Very quickly, too.
Yeah.
Impressive.
It's impressive ingenuity.
Although, we say quickly, I think we just hit the 6-month anniversary.
100 days.
Let's say it was February, I think, very end of February when it was.
Today is literally the 100th day.
That's crazy. So not 6 months then. 3.
Yeah, like 3 or 4, yeah.
100 day must have been what I'm thinking of. And speaking of Starlink, and certainly Starlink has had quite the advertisement in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason they still have internet. Has Viasat ever recovered in Ukraine?
No, those terminals are hard to recover.
Wow. But that's not the only place where the Starlink is spreading.
Elon Musk says Starlink has been approved in Nigeria and Mozambique. Woo!
Now, I've been watching a lot of documentaries about Africa lately, especially about transporting things in Africa. Oh my God, fascinating. But one of the things that comes up over and over in those videos is the daily income for the average person in those countries. And it's something like €8. So they mention here the Starlink price is the same in Africa. So that's like a year of income for the common person.
Internet cafes are popular in such places.
I imagine, like NGO outreach will be a big part of all that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
We won't have it in the government section, but in the business section, we'll also talk about Starlink 2.0 and carriers and stuff like that, which is also related to the deployment here. So exciting times.
And if you're using mobile data for your primary internet connection, and maybe you're getting it through Vodafone, now might be the time to switch, because this headline is disgusting.
Vodafone plans carrier level using tracking for targeted ads. Remember the undeletable header cookie that Verizon was injecting into your HTTP traffic? Now on Vodafone.
Remember what a scandal that was?
Yeah.
And now they're press releasing it.
Yeah.
How quickly we've moved into this horrible new world.
What's the Overton window for privacy violations? Because
it's laying on the ground in pieces.
I didn't look into it more, but I saw a picture the other day on like Asshole Design where someone's keyboard on their phone, there were ads in the top part, like suggested.
That's probably a third-party keyboard, though.
I would think, but
foolishly installed. Yeah. Now, these headlines, it sounds really good. It sounds a little too good. I'm always suspicious when the FBI stops a crime before it happens. Because in the past, a lot of those times, the FBI also planned and orchestrated that crime before it happens. So they could get a press release. And they use some idiot as a useful idiot and destroy their lives in the process.
FBI Director Wray says that they blocked a planned cyber attack on a children's hospital. This was in Boston. I, too, was looking for technical details as to what was going on, because usually there's something like dumb that an administrator has done. And I'm all for the FBI saying, "Hey, we noticed that your remote desktop ports are open, or your VPN is misconfigured, or gosh darn it, you're still using that Juniper with the compromised elliptic curve encryption. You should probably fix that." But this seems like
we did it, guys, and then there was no detail.
But they also said that they got word that this was coming like a week before. Why would anybody
Announce it?
I mean, they probably didn't announce it, but I guess it just could be loose lips among the forum members.
Yeah.
Well, did they know they were in there exfiltrating patient records? Because I've got news for you. Patient records are kind of an important thing. There was a huge medical records leak in Australia, and it's a national authority there, and they were just like, it's medical records. They can't really abuse that for finances. And it's like, well, that's a pretty dumb way to respond to that.
I don't think they ever got in. I think it was a totally preemptive shutdown.
Wow.
So somehow,
very skeptical.
Somehow the FBI got all the details about it, exactly how they were going to go in, and then they mitigated it in a week.
That's that is impressive if true, but there are details missing that we will no doubt follow up on.
Isn't it almost always phishing?
Yeah.
I don't care if you had an FBI agent go to every single employee and slap them around and be like, "Don't click on links and emails." Somebody would still do it.
Or it's a two-stage thing where there's one group that gets access, and then they sell access to the actual ransomware gangs. So there's one or two.
That's more likely, yeah.
Yeah, independent operators who fish somebody, and then it's like, oh, this guy's at a children's hospital.
And the FBI has been in that forum where they were selling that stuff for the past year. So but that's probably likely.
That means that at least that person has been in the system and getting data. They just haven't deployed the ransomware.
Well, did we talk about this last week?
We talked about Clearview was expanding its horizons into schools. We now have more details.
Yeah, we know exactly what they're doing now. Now, they do say they are not using the stuff that they scraped from social media at all. This is going to be a captured record of just everybody at the school they're going to look at against. But you cannot argue that they built this technology with those faces. This would not exist without that.
That's very true.
So this is definitely the fruit of a terribly poisonous tree.
Clearview is now selling its AI to app developers and school security contractors. So imagine, if you will, Clearview AI. It's like, they took my picture from social media. I didn't give them permission to do that. Okay. Your school has given Clearview AI permission to capture your likeness and image from their security cameras and all the other cameras that have been set up. You have zero control over that. You gave, the school is doing this. They're building their product with that information. And also third parties that are using that and so on and so forth. So Clearview is not even necessarily going to be the bad guy here.
You wanted to get an education? Screw you. Give up your face.
And you have to capture the faces with the same fidelity to use the same system. We know these are very good captures. We know it's very valuable. So you're going to sell that to unvetted third-party app developers who could then use it to harvest and resell the faces. I'm sure they won't do that.
Well, not only that, imagine in 5 or 6 years if this thing gets deployed. It's like we have 5 years of this person's, aging data. We know exactly what they look like. I mean, they could be the most valuable counterintelligence thing ever if this is widely adopted.
And all you have to do to get in this is go to school.
Yeah.
So, like, what percentage of us went to public school? And it's not even public. I'm sure private schools will pick this up, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How long until standardized testing uses this? It's like... you
have to take the ACT, and you have to...
You can't take it for somebody else.
And then
it's already pretty invasive.
They'll ease it right into the classroom and do that Chinese paying attention algorithm.
Oh, they do that here already for remote.
What do you mean you don't have a barcode? You just scan your barcode.
Let me see the back of your neck.
We're just turning into Gattaca every week.
Well, India has already gone down this path, and there's been a lot of scandals about their national ID system. A lot of people said it was a bad idea when it started. It's turned out to be. But this one is this goes back to that whole phishing thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, no matter what you do, no matter how secure it is, at the ground level, people have to understand it and respect it and use it. And the pragmatic hotel clerk in India doesn't have time for this. So what do they go to? Old tech.
India withdraws warning on biometric ID sharing following online uproar.
Photocopies. They didn't want to be bothered with the whole ID thing. So when you went to a hotel, you give them your ID, they'd be like, let me just throw this in the photocopier. And then they would print those and store them and use them instead of the online ID. I just imagine, the authorities talking to a hotel clerk and they're like, well, obviously I did that.
Yeah.
Do you know how annoying this is? Do you know how many customers I have? But if you want some privacy, you really have to go to some insane lengths, especially if you want phone privacy. But hey, maybe we have a new contender.
Marina, the privacy-first Android smartphone, has arrived. It's the first smartphone released. The EOS-powered Marina, Marina 1, tries to free you from Google.
How Apple is going to cease and desist EOS, right? You think the slash will save them?
I don't know. I like the Pine Phone project more than this. This is probably going to be more functional quicker, but the Pine Phone OS projects are more ambitious and properly structured, because at Android, anything built on Android I think is going to be fundamentally at odds with what the project goals are.
I had that thought, and then I was like, well, maybe they can do it.
I mean, you can, but
here's the big caveat with this thing. I don't know if this is true of the Pine Phone. You still have to have a Google account.
With the Pine Phone, it's pure Linux, no Android.
Nice. So you have to have a Google account in order to get everything going, but you don't necessarily have to use their apps. So it's better, but at the same time, you still got to be a Google customer. I guess this only affected podcasts. I did not notice this at all. And I have Spotify on quite a bit in the background during the workday. But I got to say, Spotify for me, I'm thinking about leaving them because the podcast clutter. I hate it.
Do you see podcasts a lot?
Yeah, they're like all over the dashboard.
Oh, I usually don't look at that. I don't see that a lot on mine. I usually go straight to my playlist, though.
Wow.
So maybe that's why.
One of my favorite things about Spotify is their discovery algorithm. It's so good.
Spotify publisher was down Monday night. The culprit, an expired security certificate.
Somebody's getting a demotion.
Ooh.
Yeah, most of the security certificate infrastructure these days is automated. Not just Let's Encrypt. Most of the major providers have some API or some way to automate your certificate renewal. And most certificate providers don't want to sell you a 3-year certificate anymore. That used to be, it's like, oh, you just buy a 3-year certificate. You only have to deal with it once every 3 years. Nope.
And we got a new Linux ransomware. And this one is disturbing because you might be on some sort of virtual hosting and you have no idea that this is affecting the underlying hardware.
New Linux-based ransomware targets VMware servers. CheerScript plants double extortion malware on ESXi servers. There have been some security vulnerabilities for VMware. If you didn't install those, it's probably already too late.
Aren't they planning a sale? Tough time to be releasing that news.
Yeah, it's Broadcom's working on it. It's not finalized, but they're working on it.
And we have a bizarre ransomware here that I suppose there's maybe better than the traditional one.
The headline sounds good, but then when you read how they actually did it, it's kind of terrible.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what that person gets from this. Just the lulz? Is that what it is?
Goodwill ransomware forces victims to donate and to the poor and provides financial assistance to patients in need.
All that sounds good, right?
What do you think about this? Is this better than the FBI?
No, it's terrible because the line length is too long.
Oh, okay. You drop it down to like this?
Yeah. Because otherwise you're more prone to reading the same line over and over if the text is too
They continue to commit that sin.
Yeah.
So here we go. Activity 1. This you got to help somebody on the street, right?
Right. The issue I have with all this is that you have to take photos for it. And so you have to go help someone, but then you have to be like, hi, can I take your picture while I'm giving you blankets? It's just, ugh.
5 poor children under 13 years in your neighborhood. Wow. What if you're in Malibu or like a really nice neighborhood? You can't find any poor children. Beverly Hills, we don't have them.
They were exterminated already.
And then I didn't even read the third one. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but they make you verify it by taking photos, which just feels manipulative.
Oh, you got to go to a hospital. More than making you give stuff away, it seems to want to shame you for not being poor.
Yeah. Taking photos. It's an interesting idea, but the verification of it seems strange.
If this were to explode and start infecting everybody and worming and all that stuff, there would be a hot new cottage industry from the homeless. right?
Yeah.
You don't have to give me anything. I'll be in your picture. Well, you got to give me $5.
It's the same guy in all three helping. It's what happened. It's
One
like,
guy.
yeah.
He has so many blankets now.
It turns into an Always Sunny episode where it starts out with a homeless guy and ends up with the same homeless guy in the hospital.
Or they could be like just open up a studio and dress people as homeless and take some
Right.
nice shots through
It'd
like a
be
green
easy to
screen.
fake it.
Yeah. And we found out about the Windows 0 day. Of course, it did not take long for the APT crowd to get into it.
Microsoft Windows MSDT 0-day vulnerability has been now exploited by the Chinese advanced persistent threat hackers. This one is not going to be super easy to patch because it turns out this is a feature, not a bug in Windows. You can run arbitrary code by opening an attachment in your email or just clicking on the attachment in email to start running things, which is sort of bad.
I'm terrified of those attacks because then I'll get a spam email and I'm like, oh God.
It's scary, yeah.
Don't click on it. Don't click on it. Carefully click the box and delete. Costa Rica is having a tough time with ransomware.
Yeah.
They hit almost everything. There were a few government agencies that had not been hit yet, and apparently whoever was doing this, or maybe just another ransomware gang, was like, "Oh, I'll be a part of that." So they're picking off the last survivors.
Costa Rican Social Security Fund hit with ransomware attack. So this is affecting people in Costa Rica on Social Security, which is, they're most vulnerable.
The Social Security Fund joins all of these. So many Costa Rican government agencies are fully ransomwared right now.
And they want 10 million. Oh, this was also probably the Russians. And so the instructions for paying the ransomware are also much more convoluted than it used to be because of the sanctions.
Oh.
That's sort of interesting. It's an interesting twist on a familiar tune.
Now, I remember this story, although they say this happened 3 times. I don't know if we got it all 3 times.
We got it.
Or 2. It was just 2 before this one. This is the 3rd.
Yeah, we only got it the one time before.
But we definitely talked about it before, but it keeps happening. Also, you know what occurred to me? This is War Thunder, which is all about tanks, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the War Thunder crowd is a little crestfallen after seeing what tank warfare has become?
There's a guy on an e-bike with a man pad that's taking out our $50 million tank. What is going on?
They should add the e-bike and the man pad as like the highest tier tank unlock.
There are bikes in PUBG now. I don't remember that being a thing before, and they actually are fairly effective because they're quiet.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I think actually I remember those.
They had motorcycles, but I don't think
Maybe
they
that's
had
what I'm thinking of.
bicycles.
Anyway, the leak here is the same as it was before. Somebody gets in a hot argument about how things should behave in the game, and they want to bring in real world examples, but that's all secret.
Another guy has leaked classified military documents on the same tank games forum. Yeah, War Thunder. Except this time, instead of a classified U.S. tank, it was a classified Chinese tank. Woo!
They said this guy, I mean, sometimes you might think, well, this is a guy who's out of the military, right? He's just a civilian now, and he's leaking this. Maybe that's not as bad. This guy posted his screenshot with his proof and a tank shell, a live tank shell, to prove that he, in fact, knew what would happen in this game.
It probably won't be hard to track that guy down.
Oh, that guy got a security clearance.
In China.
Wow.
Although, does China conscript their military?
I don't know. Engagement challenge?
He's clearly proud of his tank command, I guess. And our final security story, this should surprise no one, and yet it's disgusting because we were assured this kind of thing was not going to happen.
It's impossible.
We don't need to worry about this. That's crazy talk.
Remote learning apps shared children's data at a dizzying scale. Think about that when we talk about the Clearview AI thing.
Yeah. Well, children are going to be the consumers of the future. We got to get on now.
We got to get, it's not just that they're the consumers of the future. We have to get them used to this police state hellscape before they realize something is wrong.
And so you're thinking, well, yeah, okay. So they shared with the school, right? They shared the children's data with the school. No. They shared the children's data with advertising. 90% of the school learning software was reporting directly to ad agencies.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that we should mention. They were not playing Fruit Ninja. These were actually the applications that the school recommended or that were officially part of the curriculum.
And you wonder how much value is that? Well, they had so many data points, they claimed that they could easily pinpoint the spending habits of these kids based on this.
Adults don't buy stuff as much anymore, but people will buy stuff for their kids. So Got to get that money.
This needs to not be normalized, not because it's the privacy considerations are important, sure, but the psychological aspect, the ability to weaponize that and manipulate the kids when they're adults in the future is just too easy.
You know what? We need to coin a term here. I hope. I'm sure somebody's thought of this before. We're going to call this boiling the tadpoles.
Oh.
Much easier than boiling frogs. Much easier.
The tadpoles instinctively know something is wrong, but they're unable to articulate what, because everything is as it's always been.
But when they reach froghood, it's just normalized. And then they let their tadpoles be spied upon.
Yeah. Eventually, they will reach a breaking point.
Let's hope that happens before the country falls.
What do we got for tomorrow?
Tomorrow we got business and whichever's smaller between space, robot, and social.
Social's pretty small.
And even more Elon Musk business news.
Yeah.
Getting a little tired of it.
Yeah.
I am too. I don't want to hear about him anymore. And yet.
It turns out all this stuff from the last few weeks has just been some poorly executed Machiavellian nonsense.
Oh, we should also mention, for those of you who are screeching in the comments, we did listen. A little bit different angle this week. I don't know what background we'll use.
Yeah, we'll try to do something a little less busy, probably.
I don't know if my shirt is going to key out or not.
I wore green pants last week and immediately regretted it. He got it out, but
It didn't even occur to me.
If Ryan's just a floating head,
That'll
why
be hilarious.
it's
Yeah.
fine.
Maybe we should strive for that.
we should all buy green shirts. Yeah.
No, just one of us every week. Rotate it.
Also, we tried to clear the desk off a little bit too, but
Yeah, the desk is not getting less busy. This is how it looks.
sorry. All right. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. Today's June 8th, doing business and social.
Brought to you by Linode. Get the $100 below.
We're good about remembering to do our Linode stuff this week.
Only this week.
Yeah, we've been
using
kind of
too.
lazy lately, but we'll make sure to mention them.
Now, this one could have gone in security, I suppose, but it's in business, so let's just go with it, right? Why would we argue with that? And it has to do with a brand. Have you ever had?
Tim Hortons, I have.
Oh, yeah,
what-
because you've been to Canada.
What do you think about it?
It is actually surprisingly good for a chain.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you have in their menu?
I had the donuts. I had the breakfast sandwich. Linus actually gave us all Tim Hortons gift cards. I did not manage to spend all $20 or whatever it was that he gave me.
Oh, it's like coming home with foreign currency.
Yeah,
It's like, what do I do with this? Yeah.
it was for LTX, so that was fun. That was fun though, and it was surprising. It's almost as upscale as Chick-fil-A, but as prevalent as McDonald's.
Do they say my pleasure when you thank them?
I don't remember anything about that.
Critical.
The service was pretty good though.
Is Linus going to do LTX again anytime soon?
Yeah, soon I hope. Probably.
Yeah, I'll say with the
Well,
thing.
I believe you have inadvertently landed on the proper way to do business with Tim Hortons, which is gift cards. Because I would not give them a credit card, and I certainly wouldn't install this piece of software.
Tim Hortons app tracked too much personal information without adequate consent, and an investigation finds. It turns out it was also third-party tracking. Like Tim Hortons didn't even necessarily.
Oh, no.
I've been getting spammed to death the last 2 days.
It turns out that Tim Hortons maybe didn't even necessarily have the data.
Wow.
Professional news here.
They used a library, and the library was stealing the data, which is a thing that we've reported on before. It's like, oh, here's a free GPS library that I can use in my application
Free.
that also reports your location to the app developers and some other stuff. Now Tim Hortons did have some other stuff in the application that was on the naughty list, so they're not completely exonerated here. But yeah, don't just randomly use third-party libraries. That's not a good idea.
Who uses apps for stores anyway?
You'd
Well,
be surprised.
You know what? If I like Chick-fil-A, for example, that's the only way to fight the drive-through. I've not done it, but I've considered it.
I haven't done that yet. McDonald's is all about the app now too. Every time you go through the drive-through, they're like, get the app and just do it this way.
Yeah, I've noticed that like the Lowe's website really wants you to use the app, and the website has gotten progressively more useless.
Yeah.
Because the website, it'll like auto scroll when you're looking at stuff. That'll happen 3 or 4 times when you're looking at a product, is it'll just scroll the page around.
And the filters are awful.
Yes.
For trying to like find certain things or certain sizes.
It's literally, I know you have this thing. I just want to know what aisle and bay it is.
Which is always wrong.
Well, not always.
Sometimes it's all right.
I've gone and I'll go to an employee and I'm like, where is bay AB? And they're like, we don't have that.
They might just be stupid, because I've had good luck not interacting with the employees and just getting what I need from the thing.
Well, it's weird that after the whole world has moved to SSD, all of a sudden we want the spinning hard drives back. Why do we want them? Because of the massive, massive storage capacity.
Larger than 30 terabyte hard drives are coming much sooner than expected. Japanese company has spilled the beans on the next big thing in storage. Spoiler alert, their endurance is going down and the transfer rate is not going up.
That's how it works, right? You pack on the muscle, you lose your cardio.
So copying 30 terabytes off of this spinning rust monstrosity is going to take about 48 hours.
It's a great place to store your media. Although having the RAID for the backup one, expensive.
Yeah, it's like you're going to need 3 mechanical hard drives just to store 1 drive's worth of information, because when something dies and you need to copy something off, it's going to be very slow, if it works at all.
And Sony is predicting the death of the DSLR.
Maybe a little bold.
Maybe a little bold.
Maybe.
Smartphones will kill off the DSLR within 3 years, say Sony. Now, this is a story that we've heard every year for the last couple of years. What makes it a little different this year is that we've actually figured out how to make silicon sensors that don't really even necessarily have lenses and optical elements. And we've also been able to reduce the optical element size a whole bunch. We're able to deal with aberrations, and we're able to sort of mass produce this on a relatively small scale. So even though we've got a small sensor that's not a lot of silicon real estate, we can still get a good low noise image out of it. And it turns out that's good enough for most people.
And we can use multiple of those and AI and sharpen it far beyond what your skill level can do.
It's interesting stuff.
Tough time for photographers.
I'll say I still would prefer real photos.
How do you describe real?
Like photos that were taken by a photographer, in terms of like when I'm working with someone on a website. So a lot of times people will hand me photos from like their iPhone and they're like, this is pretty good. And I'm like, is it though?
Krista, there's a little gatekeeping here. What makes a photographer a photographer?
Someone who can give me a photo that's not 500 by 500. And then they're like, can you just blow that up into a header? And it's like, no, I cannot.
Well, the iPhone certainly won't give you that.
The other thing with this is that Sony is literally talking about the single lens reflex aspect of this. It's just no longer necessary to implement a camera that way.
Tough day for mirrors.
Yeah.
Well, we found out that Broadcom is sniffing around trying to buy VMware, and we wondered, will this be good for the consumer or will it be bad? Boy, that didn't take long.
Broadcom to focus on rapid transition to subscriptions for VMware, reports the Register. In fact, a lot of outlets are reporting that Broadcom acquiring VMware is generally bad for VMware customers. Going so far as to say Broadcom, it looks like what Broadcom is saying is that they're going to focus on the top 600, 800 customers that VMware has and extract as much money as possible from those customers. And if you're not one of those customers, you probably should find something else, which seems a little extreme, but time will tell.
Seems like maybe we should not let that happen if it's just going to be terrible for the consumer.
Can the shareholders band together and then buy VMware and then just not have to deal with that? Because you're going to have to pay the $61 billion one way or the other.
Maybe Elon Musk can get involved. And antitrust is the name of the game. That is the thing that we are hoping can maybe tear down some of this horrible tech giant stuff, but it's not moving very quickly.
Judge rules Cydia's antitrust case against Apple can move forward. This is a third-party app store that was trying to use sideloading for Apple, but Apple basically shut them down at every turn. They haven't been operational for a few years, but what's started all this is the Epic lawsuit. Remember the Apple versus Epic lawsuit, and Apple wants to load Fortnite. Epic wants sideloading. Well, Apple said some things in that lawsuit that might actually help Cydia win their case.
But it's not this is only a ruling that says the case can go forward.
Yeah.
Apple wanted it thrown out. The judge didn't have good things to say about the actual merits of the case.
Yeah.
So they might not have a very good chance there. When it comes to, I watched a documentary about expiration dates, or not, it wasn't about expiration dates. It was about the people who stay in Antarctica over the winter. And they were like, wait a minute, doesn't add up. A plane doesn't come here for 4 to 6 months or whatever it is. How do you deal with expired food? And they were just like, yeah, the secret is we just ignore that. And they're fine. So we know that's a little bit of a game, but at the same time, I've definitely like picked up my bread and like, ooh, I'm on the last day, and then you turned over and there's a big green spot.
Right. Well, and the thing too, if you're an expedition to Antarctica, you probably have food that's designed to deal with being stuck in Antarctica for 4 to 6 months.
Well, yeah, they're definitely not. It's not produce.
Right.
There is such a thing as canned bread.
But they might be eating stuff like that that's not common in grocery stores.
Nothing better than a long day of tagging seals in negative 50-degree weather to come into some canned bread.
Ugh.
But we're getting a little bit of that maybe now too, because it's going to become, if these people win, a lot harder to recognize when your milk is going bad.
Consumers embrace milk carton QR codes and make up food waste. The headline is completely wrong. No consumer wants milk carton QR codes.
Nobody.
The QR codes literally exist to benefit not the consumer.
It just adds friction to the whole experience.
Well,
Like,
they say it does benefit the consumer because it benefits all of us, because it reduces food waste.
Nobody wants to buy the milk that's expiring tomorrow.
Right. So if you're smart, when you go to buy milk or produce, they have those lines with spring-loaded lines moving towards you, or they're at an angle. You just start picking off the first ones and just throwing them on the floor. And then you get to the one that's like, there's the new one. That's the one I want. That's what they want to stop by removing the dates and making you scan every single one of those cartons. I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
Although we also is this actually just going to, translate to a text value, or is this going to take me to a website?
It's going to go to a website and
Yes.
it's going to say, your phone's already scanned 3 gallons of milk. Just
Oh, I didn't even think about that. It'll limit how many you can scan.
That one is good enough.
Yeah.
And that's when you just open up the milk and pour it everywhere.
I'm pretty sure this is prelude to massive shortages where it just doesn't matter. It's like if you can get a gallon of milk, just take it.
You know what? Yeah, this milk is expired. Take it home. It's buttermilk now. And here's a big sea change, and this shows how crazy things are getting in China. I believe Shanghai did reopen, right?
Some of this is not related to that, I don't think.
Engagement challenge.
Oh, I'm sure they're paying close attention to that.
I'm sure that's part of it, but
Also the whole pandemic thing. They did, all of their eggs were definitely in that one basket, and so they're saying maybe we take one egg, move it over a little bit.
Apple has shifted iPad capacity to Vietnam amid China supply chain woes. This is not really an Apple decision. This is a Foxconn decision, but Foxconn in general is heeding. The top-down direction from Apple was build up inventory and build redundancy into the supply chain in case something happens, which Foxconn translated into, okay, Vietnam.
But
a lot of clothing companies have been moving to Vietnam for the last 5 to 10 years. This predates.
Well, it's been even longer than that, right? I mean, the garment industry is huge in Vietnam.
Yeah, because it's cheaper than China. I think China is getting too high up in the middle class.
What happens when we run out of countries to be
keep
developing
doing that?
countries?
Yeah, exactly.
Then it cycles back around to us. The first number 1 country becomes the number 0 country. And here's a great idea, and you might be thinking, how did this take this long to come around? I imagine because only recently have magnets not been a major threat to our electronic devices.
Tangle-free magnetic USB cables are here. I've seen these before. This is not new, but this is a thing for USB cables now.
Is this just somebody at The Verge needing an article? Sean Hollister?
Pretty much, yeah.
He's a junior writer, probably.
These aren't new, but, PSA, here's some free advertising for Magnet Company.
My cats would love these.
Just tear right into him. Like Cricket tore into that mouse. He didn't do it.
Now, Krista, every time you stream Overwatch on Twitch, a lot of people in chat are just outraged at your loot box count. How many do you have right now?
I think I've got like 1,500 or something like that. I don't even know. I don't care about loot boxes. I don't open them.
Which some people just cannot accept.
They get upset. Yeah, they're like, "Why don't you open them?" I'm like, "Because I don't care about cosmetics in a game. I just want to play the game."
Because apparently you don't, and I'm with you here. We don't have the mental compulsion to get these useless items.
Yeah, who cares?
But we are seemingly in a large minority or a small minority.
18 European countries' consumer groups have joined the fight against loot boxes. They're deceptive and encourage gambling.
Norway had a lot of not very kind things to say about loot boxes in general.
Who can say anything kind about loot boxes and not be lying? Now, the big, it seems like what kicked off the headlines about this is that new Diablo game.
Oh, it's got like $100,000 worth of microtransactions in it, I think.
And certain countries, it might have been Netherlands, were just like, no, you're not launching that here. We're not doing it.
Do you have any idea how many problems we have with our children just because of sugar? We give them this. It's like crack cocaine.
How far has Blizzard fallen that they're just making mobile trash games like that?
You know what? Look at Konami. Konami, they are following the exact same the path of Konami.
This is genius. Why didn't we think of this? It's like,
oh, Blizzard.
So they got a bunch of bullet points. It's hard to argue against any of these, right? Using layers of virtual currencies to mask or distort real-world monetary cost. Every game has like the free one and the premium one.
The funny monies, yeah.
I like Path of Exile where you have to pay to be able to hoard all the loot.
Do you really like that?
No, I mean it's genius because it doesn't affect gameplay, but for me, it's like I have to hang on to this.
It does kind of affect gameplay though if you can hold on to loot and sell it.
You know, you are particularly affected by it. What are your feelings on loot boxes? Do you like them?
I don't really care about loot boxes or cosmetics or any of the stuff, but if it's like, oh, you can use this item in the game and you have to get rid of it because you don't physically have enough room for it, it's like, but I might decide to play, a dwarf bard, something that's going to need this item.
Yeah, your love of in-game loot plus your hoarding instincts is like a dangerous combination for that.
A lot of people have that, I think, and it's exploited in those game mechanics for sure.
Now, sometimes it's just exploited to give you endorphins.
Well, even think about like the card games. Like when we play the deck building card games, I want to build all the thing when a lot of the time the strategy is to just have like a deck that's just 4 cards that you just keep cycling through over and over again.
But they make that hard. Removing is a big mechanic in those games. They make it hard to take cards out of your deck.
Yeah.
Also, remember in DayZ was the best one because you would go to like 50 different houses and there'd be nothing but just garbage and empty cans. And then you'd find the M4 and that flood of happiness was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then you get shot in the back of the head.
But I think the part of the joy of that sort of interaction is that like you actually have to play.
Right. You have to work for it.
Right. Yeah. It's not just, oh, let me roll the dice and see if I get the thing I want.
But the same people cheating at PUBG like that. Well, Elon Musk, for a while, Elon Musk was a bit of a darling to the Greens and the progressives. They sort of kind of ignored his whole anti-union thing and some of the crazier things that he said. And they're like, oh, he's just a weird genius. But all that has changed. And now everything he says is completely demonized because he's a monster.
Elon Musk reportedly declares remote work no longer acceptable at Tesla. Orders company execs to spend at least 40 hours in the office. Now, this came out, and the day this came out, I said, this is a stealth layoff. And then the next day, it's a stealth layoff.
Oh,
did you not sort that?
Did you put it in the main document?
I thought I did.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't.
We might stumble into it later.
But, yeah, so it's so transparent. And also, the Tesla stock price, he's not going to be able to buy Twitter. It's unless it really significantly rebounds by the time we post this.
Does he still want Twitter?
I mean, I think the whole thing, if you look at it, the whole thing was one exercise of manipulation.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get Twitter's price to go down.
I've heard some theories that he's thinking about doing his own social media, and he just wanted to expose what Twitter really was. And oh boy, did he do that.
Well, I mean, either way, he's just trying to tank the value of it, because even if he wants it, he wants to get it for a lower price.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well,
anyway, they got to lay off 10% of people.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
We might have more details about that. But another thing that Tesla did that was revolutionary, you have to admit, was to take the dealerships out of the equation.
No haggling.
And as someone who would really, well, I wouldn't really do it. I might do it. A Corvette Z06. Oh my God, those are amazing looking. But the markup is to the tune of $80,000 to $100,000.
Forget that.
Because of the dealers.
Does it get you from point A to point B? That's all that matters.
Very quickly. And it makes such a cool noise, Krista. You have no idea. But other companies are looking at that and they're like, yeah, the dealers are kind of screwing the customers and his version is working.
No more dealer markups. Ford wants to move to online-only sales for electric vehicles. Ford thinks this distribution model costs $2,000 more per car than Tesla's.
I can see it. You got to move them there. They got to sit there on the lot.
Right.
The dealer is going to charge you as much markup as possible and probably not be honest with you about things.
Because Ford's got to make their profit, but then the dealer's got to make their profit too.
Yeah. Is running a car dealership a value add versus, say, chip production or, in terms of that kind of job and the economy and
plus it's good for smaller towns. Because I was looking at an Audi, like a certain Audi. I was thinking about as an alternative to the vet. And I went there and I was like, he was like, no, we don't have that. And I was like, oh, can you get one? No. Will you ever get one? No, not here.
All right. I'm out.
It's like going to the local computer shop. I would like a Threadripper, please. A thread what? A what?
Sir, this is not a garment shop.
We got this E-machines. You want the E-machine? How do you have an E-machine? They haven't been in business in over a decade.
You say that as if there is that. That place doesn't even exist. There is no local computer shop.
Not anymore.
Well, we've known for a while about Amazon's little wristband tracker widgets, and we knew that they were awful, but we didn't know the true details of them until now.
Internal documents show Amazon's dystopian system for tracking workers every minute of their shifts. And oh boy, even beyond this article, this is another rabbit hole you should go down and share. No, not that one, the other table. It's great. Yeah, that one. So look at this.
This is one person.
Time off task, 159.11, 158.33, 139.30, 134. A lot of these gaps are really tiny.
But this is each person with their cumulative time. So at the end of the day, if you're at the top of that list, you get a talking to. And if you're consistently at the top of that list every day, you're gone. This is crazy because it's like, okay, they went to the bathroom, so we're going to give them that 10 minutes back. But when they went to the wrong floor by mistake, we don't give them that time back.
I don't understand who at Amazon thinks that this is good for company morale.
Actually, if the employee makes a mistake like that, that is pretty well codified in labor law that they still they still have to pay them for that time. So they can't dock them the pay, but it might be that counts against them otherwise.
Yeah, they don't pay them. It's just a cumulative thing. This was the worst offender. So this is one whole day and all the parts that they couldn't explain. They're like, well, you're fired.
Maybe I just zoned out for a second. Like, come on.
I don't think people were designed to be
that relentlessly productive at all hours, 100% focused at all hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dystopian.
Certainly not for that long of a shift, right?
Right.
Haven't we learned that you have like 2 to 3 good productive hours in a day and then things start to go wild in your mind? Something like that. I don't know if I believe that, but
I think it depends on the task. Like sometimes I can be really hyper focused on something for a good long period, but other times it's like there's just too much going on, either with emails or messages or
the world spiraling into darkness.
Yeah, that too.
It also puts the whole attrition thing into, anybody that wants a job basically can get a job as an Amazon warehouse person. But if you look at the number of people that have rotated in and out, like everybody knows somebody that worked at an Amazon warehouse position at this point, pretty much. And it seems to suggest that the people in our society are not built to work this way if that much of the population can't do it.
But how crazy.
Almost everyone I've talked to who's talked about working there, they're like, oh, it's awful. I hate it.
But that's so wildly cultural because in China, they got the 996.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and Elon Musk has praised that.
Not only that, but it seems like the mindset of some of the employees are, it's giving me numbers in a table. I can try to work and improve my numbers. And it's like,
except that doesn't really work. Like when I was a cashier, they would give you a percentage of like how quickly you scanned things, and they're like, you got to get your number up, and like that didn't motivate me at all. I was just like, I don't care about your stupid number about how quick I scan things.
Have you noticed that Meyer, they have that board of who is the fast and friendly board?
Yeah.
But I guess there was maybe some stalking or some worry about, like anonymity. So they use like horse names instead. It's not people names anymore.
It's just also too, part of the people who were like super fast at my old job, they tended to crush the baggers' hands because they would just sling cans down the thing. And I was like, you can't do that to people.
And sometimes I'll be trying to unload because I like to unload as I go and not be like the old ladies who just let it all pile up and add another minute to. And then like you have to be careful to reach down with some of the more aggressive ones because they get in there and spin that thing.
Yeah. So like when I was a cashier, I would take like bigger items like bottles of like soda or something, and I would put them off to the side. But that would take valuable seconds off of your score.
Also, you got to bag those because everything has to be carried in one trip. Everything has to be in a bag.
Right. Well, it's at the place I worked at, they had baggers, but I didn't want to crush their hands, and certainly not customer hands if they were bagging for themselves.
At Amazon, they'd be like, listen, their hands are not your concern. You let them worry.
Crush them.
Yeah. Well, here's the story that we talked about in the previous episode, and we kind of already gave away all the details, but this is just more right to repair horror.
Farmer says the dealer won't repair his tractor until he filed an FTC complaint. So this is a John Deere tractor that had a warranty issue, and you get the feeling that this particular customer is a pain to deal with. And so the dealer said, we decline to do the repair. We don't want your business. It's like, okay, it's a free country. A business owner can do that. But if they're the only dealer in the area that can do a warranty service, they are obligated to fix it by John Deere. That's not an optional service. You can't decline warranty service. That's not how that works.
Now, he describes it, or the problem was the air conditioner went out. And he describes it as like, I know that sounds, look, just do it without the air conditioning, but you don't understand. The way they've built this thing, it's basically a greenhouse with a giant diesel engine venting into the cabin.
Well, and also in a field, you're out in the sun all day. That's hot.
Right. But in the 70s, I guess the tractors were more open. Yeah. Is that the thing? And you can't just pop the windows out of this thing. It's too much of a...
Too dangerous.
Because when you're running the AC, you want it to be hermetically sealed.
Yeah.
Stupid.
It's progress, but is it?
He also said they'd been out to fix the air conditioner once before and didn't do something right, and so it malfunctioned again.
But that's one of those digital codes where he doesn't even know what's wrong with the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Just that it's not working. They did eventually have to take him as a customer, but they don't like him.
He likes to complain.
Do you like being fed? Because that's what's at stake here. Fix it.
And Microsoft has, there's been a leak. I don't know if Microsoft leaked it. They might have. However,
these are available now.
It's
only a one-day leak.
Nothing exciting about this.
Microsoft Surface Go laptop successor leaks via retailer, and they're now available. It comes with an 11th gen Intel processor. It doesn't come with ARM. I think that's kind of newsworthy. As much work as Microsoft and Qualcomm are purported to have been doing on ARM for low cost, the new Surface Go is not ARM based. That's surprising. But this thing's going to be like $700 at the top end, or $600 at the top end, or the default end, I guess.
And all the other hardware was basically the same.
Yeah, and 128 gig, probably not great.
Now here's a crazy question, because you got to think that the people of China have had plenty of time to be reading lately, right?
Yeah.
So why just this, but not all of the other Amazon businesses? There's something unspoken here.
Amazon to pull Kindle out of China, and other businesses are going to remain. I'll tell you why. It's because it's too much of a pain to put arbitrary media on a Kindle. Kindle could be a great book reader, but not. It only wants to read Amazon books.
Do you think
that there's too many competitors maybe in China, and people are like, I'm not going to pay for an Amazon
Or they're
Kindle?
just more pragmatic?
I think they're just more pragmatic. I think in China, if you want an ebook, it's probably a PDF or an EPUB with no protection, and they just email it to each other.
I can see that. I can see that being like big, like not file sharing the way we're thinking about file sharing, but grassroots file sharing.
Yeah. So it's like, here's the book. And it's like, I would like to load this on my Kindle so that I can read it. Oh, I can't.
Also, you know what? I never considered this. Because the Communist Party is going to know exactly what you're reading if you're using an Amazon Kindle.
Yeah.
And they probably know anyway, but there'll be more steps to it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the first, and I'm astonished that it took this long because we've had every other kind of scandal hit the NFT world.
Reuters reports that the U.S. has charged the OpenSea ex-employee in first NFT insider trading case. They not just charged, the FBI had a raid. It was pretty dramatic. So this is one of those situations where the dude had the NFTs and he bid up the NFTs under a different account or a different wallet, but he controlled both wallets so that it would look like these were really hot. Spoiler alert, it was a scam.
You know what? I bet they kicked his door in, went right in. I bet they didn't wait an hour.
There was no danger that they were going to get shot by the OpenSea people, so it's fine.
Yeah, how about the OpenSea front page doubles the value of your NFT?
Yeah.
Too much power. Oh, Krista, it's coming.
I know.
It's coming, but it's being done in the stupidest way imaginable. And they have some empirical evidence here that it's actually just leading to cancellations.
Oh, Netflix's password sharing test in Peru is confusing subscribers, report suggests.
So in Peru, you would get a pop-up, and it's like, oh, we think you're sharing a password. You need to subscribe. And you can click a button and do that. But you could also just close it, and everything would keep working.
Or you could complain to them and be like, this is a member of my family, but they're in a slightly different location. And they'd just be like, all right. So that's the trick if you want to get out of that.
Yeah, if they start doing that and then eventually restrict access, I just won't use Netflix.
There's not even anything good on Netflix right now except for Star Trek.
The Crown, but The Crown there's such long gaps between the seasons. It's like, why bother? Subscribe for the month and then get rid of it.
Both of those are on my media streaming service as well.
I too have some backup Star Trek options.
Here is our weekly installment of That Doesn't Belong on the Cloud.
Canon wireless printers are getting stuck in a reboot loop, but there's a way you can fix it. So it's basically change your wireless access point name or disable DNS on your router, and then your printer won't boot loop. Because,
or run it off a USB cable in offline mode.
Yeah.
Because why does your printer need to be on the internet? ARM is just the prettiest girl at the prom. My God, everybody wants a piece of ARM.
Qualcomm wants to buy a stake in ARM alongside its rivals. CEO wants the UK chip designer to remain neutral no matter what happens. And so SoftBank, a Japanese company, owns ARM. Everybody keeps forgetting that. When everybody in the UK was all upset about the whole NVIDIA thing. It's like, but SoftBank is a Japanese company. What? So Qualcomm's sort of proposing, hey, why don't we get a bunch of people together that have a vested interest in ARM basically staying the way that it is, because ARM is pretty neutral right now anyway. And we all keep our ARM licenses and we just kind of buy it. Kind of like the whole VMware, like, well, we don't want Broadcom to buy it. Why don't we as a coalition of VMware customers get together and raise $61 billion and just buy VMware that way, because that'll be cheaper in the long run.
And move it to Switzerland.
I mean, it could work.
Well, Starlink has definitely gotten good press since its launch. I've seen some people try to malign it a little bit and say it's not scalable, but maybe this will fix that.
Elon Musk reveals the details of next generation Starlink satellites. Spoiler alert, the Generation 2 satellites are bigger and heavier. They're like, what, 1.5 tons?
Almost twice as big, I think.
They're going to need the Falcon Heavy launch system, which is not fully complete yet.
They'll need a lot more space in the sky as well. They're going to just blot out the sky with satellites.
Bigger cubes. But remember, he did recently flex on how much that Starship could move.
Yeah.
So I think he's not worried about it. It's a bigger oops if this blows up in the atmosphere.
Yeah. But these satellites can communicate with each other and blah, blah, blah. We don't know how much of this is the Elon Musk reality distortion field, but he says that they're an order of magnitude faster than the previous Starlink satellites in terms of their bandwidth and transmission and interface capabilities.
It's like the shimmer in Annihilation, where some things are really beautiful, but every now and then a giant monster pops out.
Is that the Southern Reach story?
Maybe. I saw the movie, so I'm not sure. I think it's based on a short story.
3 books.
Okay.
Which are not bad, but just, I read those books, I couldn't tell you what happened. Because there's a total confusion.
The movie's good.
IBM has done some bad things, and in this case, it was a bad thing that they specifically said they would not do.
IBM ordered to pay $1.6 billion to BMC. Big Blue's routine issuing of the rules warrants the large penalty. So this is a Houston-based company.
They were doing business with AT&T, and they partnered up with this company, and the company was like, we want you to put in the contract that you won't try to supplant us at AT&T. Guess what they did?
IBM can do no wrong. Oops.
Here's the dream. How much a month would you pay for this?
$100.
That's all?
Maybe $150.
What if it was 300? You'd do it. You know you'd do it. You've paid more than that for gigabit in the past. I know you have. I would too.
Chorus shows off 25 gigabit per second retail fiber broadband. 25 gigabit, what?
And through the same fiber that we've got run right now, supposedly.
It's nice. Oh, it'll probably be in the story next week, but some research outfit has gotten 1 petabit through the same fiber that we have now. So that'll be nice when that starts to roll out.
I think the Copyright Coalition will get in front of that.
I can instantly have anything ever written by a human hand on this, collection of 30 terabyte hard drives in a matter of moments.
Now, here is a story that I would suggest that you read because it's just astonishing. It makes me so angry that these people are so out of touch and so intoxicated on their own fart smell.
High on their own supply.
They're actually willing to say these absurd things.
Video game developers want fair online games. Some players really don't. So, video game developers built a matchmaking system where you get to play against other similarly skilled, picked by algorithm, of course, players. Streamers don't like that, according to this article. Streamers want to play and win most of the time, but that's unsustainable.
And they actually make the argument. It's like, no, it shouldn't be fair. It should benefit me.
That really is the argument. And this happens a lot in the Overwatch community where you'll have like a pro streamer and they'll do these like bronze to GM challenges where they purposely throw. So that way they get placed in bronze and then show them climbing up out of bronze, which means they're just stomping on low skill players.
But no one in this article takes a moment to think about me. Because in that equation, guess what I am?
The low skill scrub.
I'm the one getting stomped.
It's not fun. And then they're like, how come no one's playing the game anymore? And it's like, because it's not fun to be stomped every game. It's not fun to be the stomper either, I don't think.
Has anybody taken the data sets from all the individuals playing and used that to train a massive AI? Maybe we could create AI players that feel real but are not.
Well, they say that they love bot lobbies because they can stomp the bots.
That's so PUBG, I've been playing a little bit more with some friends, and PUBG, because the people aren't playing it as often, they have like bots in the maps now, but you can tell because they'll just linger around the same spot. They'll shoot at you, but then like they don't try to move to another position. It's like, oh, that's a bot. I'm not even going to waste bullets on that.
Remember when we were playing Rocket League and they hadn't gotten the matchmaking working at all? And you knew when there was like a name like Sarah, and you're just dunking all over it, it's like, oh, that's a regular name. That's not a real person.
Yeah, that's a bot.
And then like Bean Man 69 would enter the game and just thrash us.
Yeah, they were doing like kick flips. They were on the ceiling. Like, I don't know how to play the game that well.
Well, medical innovations are jumping forward in an astonishing pace. I wonder how safe this could possibly be.
This smart pacemaker simply dissolves inside the body when it's no longer needed.
That screams like microplastics all up in your bloodstream.
Or macroplastics.
Yeah.
You know what else dissolved inside my body? The pencil that broke off in my hand in 3rd grade where I stabbed it through my hand.
And you're fine now, right?
And it's still there. You can still see it. But
you think this piece down here is some kind of like port for IVs? Or
charging maybe?
Dude, you have to hold your arm over your chest for like 10 minutes a day. Are you doing the Pledge of Allegiance? No, I'm surviving.
I assume this is for so there's like pacemakers like what my mom has where it's on all the time. But sometimes for medical procedures, they might give you a temporary pacemaker.
Right. So the idea here is to not have to open you back up to take it out.
Right.
So why don't I just let me keep it? Just let the battery run out.
And it just stays there forever.
It's a memento that I can always look down on my hand and be like, oh yeah, I remember the horrible stabbing pain. And it's just right there in my hand.
I don't remember anything about this story. Did one of you guys add this?
This is not the right story.
Oh,
Oh,
what?
what's happened?
Did it change?
It didn't go back.
It's
All right,
different.
We're
lost
cutting it,
We've
yeah.
lost the story this week. I don't know what it was. It must have been social media.
The story it was trying to suggest for us was about diamonds, which is not social media.
Well, you know who's not a diamond, but she could buy a lot if she wanted to.
Sheryl Sandberg has stepped down as chief operating officer of Facebook parent Meta. This is your final warning if you've got stock in Facebook/Meta.
Pull it. She didn't give a reason for her departure in her like little letter, but it's pretty clear she's not really on the metaverse train.
She
I
was
would think.
astonishingly good at her job, though.
Which makes her evil.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
Cambridge Analytica scandals and that kind of stuff. I mean, she navigated those waters expertly.
And maybe one of the things that could be worrying her is that when it comes to AR and VR, Meta was not the first one to the game.
No.
And it turns out a lot of the people who were first to the game have patents.
Immersion accuses the Meta platform of Meta platforms of patent infringement in AR and VR.
This is haptic feedback. So apparently Immersion has some haptic feedback patents when it comes to AR and VR. And was Meta the one that was working on the thing where it would simulate a kiss with sonic
I think so.
transducers? So I wonder if they've got scent that Meta's working on something like that.
It seems like Facebook would just acquire Immersion and call it a day.
That's
might
probably
be-
what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that might
like
be
next
hanging
week
for it.
we're going to learn. Oh,
Is Immersion publicly traded? You might want to get into that. Might want to FOMO that. And the United Arab Emirates have, I guess they want to be part of the cool crowd who's talking about the metaverse. They clearly don't understand it on any level, which is so hilarious.
this image too. Whoever did this photo.
Metaverse murders will be punished as real crimes, says the United Arab Emirates AI minister. They have an AI minister?
Which is shocking, right?
I was going to try to find the lost story, but
If you die in the metaverse, you get punished in real life.
So they do admit in the article that currently there are no metaverse apps where you can die. But if we were to have a shooter video game, for example,
Or just any video game, like death is part of video games.
well, but you could die
part of
without
life, too.
you could die without being murdered. But are we going to say like are we going to start calling Call of Duty Warzone as an actual war in the metaverse? So then you can't be prosecuted for the kills that you get in there?
Well, I'm thinking too, like, whenever I play games with friends, like, killing your friends is part of the joy of, like, Fall Guys or Humans Fall Flat, where you pick them up and throw them over the edge. Will I get persecuted for that?
What if we end up with war crimes in the metaverse? So if you cheat at Call of Duty, that's a war crime, and you can be held. There could be a trial.
That's probably going to be a thing in South Korea, right?
why did you get sent to Siberia? War crimes. Oh, what did you do? Well,
Wall hack.
I shot my friend. I team killed.
No, the story that we lost was the business news on the SEC declaring certain stocks meme stocks.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
maybe
Yeah.
why did that get deleted? Or
I think what was that website has that thing where it cycles
it
to new
cycles.
stories automatically.
Yeah, if you were a company and you just were declared a meme stock, isn't that a tort? Or don't you have grounds to sue the SEC now?
But that wasn't exactly what they were talking about, right? They were talking about any kind of organized.
I don't think the SEC can say that.
They can do what they want. That's the whole Supreme Court thing.
Oh, don't buy these companies. They're meme companies. It was like, what? They're publicly traded just like everybody else. That's not how that works.
And I remember what it was. They did a promotional video.
Yeah.
And the promotional video kind of painted anybody who was into meme stocks as an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't be like them. Be like real traders. And they're like, we did the research and we won.
We may be idiots still, but we won.
The meme stock people have literally shown that there is criminal activity going on, plain as day, and nothing is happening.
And they would like to continue that criminal activity. So they're going to make some propaganda toward that end. And in Iran, they have a more direct approach to controlling things like that.
Instagram moderators say Iran offered them bribes to remove accounts. So if you're a journalist or a protester, they've got your number, and Instagram would is not going to be deleting your account, but Iran authorities would really like them to.
Props to these moderators. They took a big risk here, I think.
Yeah. How long before Russia starts offering bribes?
They don't got a lot of money to be offering anything right now.
We really need to delete these things.
They're actually doing quite well with their energy trade. It's backfired a bit. And finally, we have a leak for the thing that everybody is waiting to see in terms of how could it ever deliver what has been promised. I don't think it will.
Apparent schematics for Meta's Project Cambria headset have leaked, which should make that patent infringement suit a lot more easy.
So these are the direct CAD images. This actually shows you how to put the whole thing together.
We should 3D print these, and then we can make a clickbait video that's like, I 3D printed Meta's new VR headset.
You know, there's probably some parts in there that we'd have a hard time getting.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be functional. It just has to be like,
Just make it out of cardboard.
yeah, let's look at it. Let's see what it is. It looks kind of bulky.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plus, it doesn't look like that they've solved the whole battery thing, right?
It looks like the batteries are in the side there. Those look like lithium cells in the two sides.
It's going to be a bad headline when one of those bursts into flames.
Ooh.
I thought it was immersion with the tactile feedback. I didn't realize my hair was literally on fire.
Imagine a young girl with a big perm
Oh, like me?
and soaked in hairspray, and she's just having a good time, and then whoosh.
Oof.
That's not the metaverse you want to be a part of.
I don't know if I want to be part of the metaverse. You have to wear these to go get your milk from the grocery store.
Well, the only way you're going to be able to get milk is in the metaverse.
Right.
That's what you need to see and decode the QR code. It's like you pick up the milk and it's like, oh, you're wearing your Meta headset. Let me just decode this QR code into the real date for you.
Or how about this? In the metaverse, the app is even better. It sets a color gradient on all the milks from green to red. So you don't even have to use the QR. You can just immediately choose.
know.
I want the purple loot. I want the purple milk.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The tier of loot.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is just green garbage. I want purple.
All these sticks are white tier. Oh.
What do we got Friday?
What do we always have on Friday?
Nonsense.
Nonsense, but is there anything else?
Thing we
Space.
do every week, Pinky.
Space nonsense?
Space robot nonsense.
Try to take over
Space
YouTube.
robot. Oh, there's a lot of robot news this week, which makes sense when we think back to the business news from Amazon. People can't do this. You know what can do this? It can be micromanaged down to the millisecond. Robots. Robots love that.
But see, the thing about that is, I think they're lying, because remember when AI really started to pick up, we were told over and over, this will never threaten the workforce.
Never. Ever, ever.
They're just going to work with the AI, and it's going to make us all happier. See if you agree with that on Friday.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today is June 10th. We're doing robot nonsense news because it's a Friday.
And when it comes to, if I say to you, spaceman, I suppose I should say space person.
Yeah, that's
You
awfully
immediately-
gendered of you.
Something immediately comes to mind. It's the spacesuit. You think of it, Neil Armstrong, etc. Now we do have the new SpaceX suit, which is much sleeker, but I don't think of that. To me, that's not canon.
No, it feels like they're trying to, sex up the suit, and it's just not right.
But we will be getting a new one.
Oh, NASA awards 2 companies the chance to build lunar spacesuits. I didn't recognize either of these. We were just talking about that.
I don't even remember what the names were, right?
No, it's at the very start of the article.
Axiom and Collins Aerospace.
They're not the hip ones.
And they've got this picture. I guess that's a battery on the back. Is that what that is?
I like that it kind of looks like a crop top at this angle.
Definitely looks like they shifted the weight. Although that's not really that big a deal in space, I guess, right?
Yeah, probably not.
Battery and life support equipment in the backpack.
Still looks really bulky compared to the SpaceX one.
Well, the SpaceX one's probably really concerned about how it looks.
And plus, SpaceX, you're not supposed to be getting out of the ship, right? This is a spacewalk surface of the moon suit.
Everything on the moon is so abrasive. The dust is all sharp and pointy.
But the biggest thing to remember when you think about, I want to grow up to be an astronaut, you have to poop in it. You have to keep your poop in the suit while you're doing stuff.
Could you just, go before you go out on your spacewalk?
Before you leave and then hold it in for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, no. I was talking about, if this is for spacewalks and stuff, go in the ship, and then when you have to be out of the ship,
what if you see something really scary on the lunar surface?
Then you might, you just have to deal with what's floating there.
And the Boeing Starliner is the maybe would you say it's the lagging, the slowest?
It's lagging a bit. Boeing might have lost some shine.
Not doing great, but they did have a win.
NASA praises Boeing's picture-perfect Starliner mission. The Orbital Flight Test 2 is officially a success. Nothing weird happened this time, which is not something we could say for the last 2 times that the Starliner was tested.
That's not quite true. 2 of the navigational thrusters failed, but the backups worked.
So it was fine. Rousing success.
They're thinking about, now there were no people in this pod, but they're thinking about putting people in the next one.
That was always one of the recurring things in all the Star Trek canon before the new Trek nonsense was Starfleet was always paranoid about backups and redundant backups and tertiary backups, and the other races would always, like the Romulans or the Klingons would come in as like, well, we have life support and backup life support. It's like, you don't have a 3rd and 4th and 5th life support backup? It's like, no, they just die.
That's a risk we're willing to take.
You know who I bet has that same thought process? The Chinese Space Agency.
You have how many backup life support systems?
0. And when we get to the moon, we are definitely want to grow weed there, right?
That's the only reason.
We're
going to warm it up there.
That's going to be the major export of the moon. But can we?
Scientists have grown plants in genuine lunar soil for the first time in history. We used a small sample of lunar regolith to sprout seeds.
Exciting.
Now here's the problem. These lunar seeds did not do well compared to Earth soil seeds. Turns out
that's probably pretty crappy dirt.
It's not got a lot of minerals, and it's also very sharp. The little jagged pieces, like river sand. Plants don't like that.
You're gonna take the poop from your spacesuit. You're gonna mix it into that dirt. You're gonna wait like a year and let it compost.
Are you remembering a movie, Krista?
No, that's actually a thing you do IRL too.
Matt Damon did it.
Yeah, and the Martian. Poop's great compost. Food waste is great compost.
Often when we link to press releases, I forget what the headline was about, because you read the press release and you're like, okay.
I've never read a press release with so much panic in it.
Yeah, there's something terrible here, but I couldn't remember what it was. And you get to the bottom and you're like, all right, they waited till the bottom. Yeah. They waited till the bottom. Now this goes back to, again, we were guaranteed this would never happen. It doesn't happen this way. It just makes everybody's life better. No one gets laid off.
TomTom improves map-making processes supported by Aligned Maps organization. This is a very long press release to say that TomTom is completely reorganizing. AI is making the maps, and they're going to be a lot smaller, and don't worry about it.
By smaller, you mean workforce.
Yeah.
They're laying people off because they don't need them, because AI is better at the job. That's going to be a recurring theme.
Part of me read this and was like, is TomTom still relevant? Do people buy dedicated?
I bet there's some TomToms in the Ukraine right now being used heavily.
Taped to the dashboard of 1970s era tanks, probably.
You could see the invasion starting to happen on Google Maps right before it did. It was wild.
One thing we know for sure is that our voices are being recorded by a litany of devices every day. You can't really avoid it. Even if you go no phone, other people's phones are going to get
pick you up, yeah.
So what can you do?
Is technology spying on you? New AI could prevent eavesdropping. Neutral voice camouflage disguises words with common noise.
So, I mean, it's just a speaker, obviously, but it's the technology that's impressive. So what this does, it's crazy. They use machine learning to make it fast enough so that it can predict every 2 seconds what it thinks you're going to say next. And it's 80% accurate at that. How terrifying is that? So here's like a little printout. In red is where it figured out what you were going to say and then just burned it. It won't let it go through. It garbles it.
Huh.
I like the brain slug approach a lot better. There's a guy that there's a 3D printable brain slug you can get for your Alexa, and it's got a computer in it that listens, but it's not connected to anything. And it's continually transmitting noise and nonsense to the Alexa smart speaker. But when you say the keyword for it, not the Alexa smart word, it stops transmitting noise and transmits the Alexa keyword to the Alexa. And then the Alexa is listening. But otherwise, the Alexa can't hear anything because its microphones are being flooded with noise. And it's the the brain slug from Futurama and you just put it on top of the speaker. That's genius.
But it doesn't use AI, so it's not sexy. However, using AI for everything can get problematic because people find ways to take advantage of that, and Google wants to stop them from doing that.
Google has quietly banned deepfake training projects on Colab.
That joins a bunch of other stuff they don't allow, like cryptocurrency, file hosting, media server,
Password cracking.
denial of service, the obvious ones. And once again, we got to think back to that. It's like, oh, that'll never happen. This is in India. This is Business Insider India. So what does this say for the Indian labor market coming soon?
Robot orders increased 40% in the first quarter as desperate employers seek relief from labor shortages, report says. So these are manufacturing robots. This is not like customer service robots it's not Flippy, but assembly line robots, manufacturing robots. We've done other stories where Foxconn and other companies are looking at moving into India because India is maybe a little bit more politically stable than alternatives. There's lots of willing labor in India, but whereas some things were sort of done manually before in India, wages are a little high.
So they're like, we don't want to pay the people to actually do it,
Well,
so we're going to invest in robots instead.
Once again, it's a developing economy, emerging economy. But now that it's emerged, we don't really have much use for it anymore.
Right.
Now you're just a consumer. We got to make this stuff somewhere else.
Robots.
Now, I actually, for a couple of weeks ago, I got on this kick where I watched a little bit of baseball. I was exposed to it, and I was taken by the telemetry. So much telemetry. And one of the things that I noticed is they would throw the pitch, and the ump would call it. And then they would show the animation of where exactly it went, and the announcers would be like, oh, yeah, he got that one wrong. And so it's like, well, if he got it wrong, why don't we go back and change it? Like, he hasn't pitched the next pitch yet. Can't we just say you got it wrong? And no, the umpire has the last word, but maybe not for long.
Answering the robocall, Isotopes adjust to automated calls of balls and strikes.
So they already have this technology. Also, another thing that this can do that apparently humans are not good at is considering the height of the batter.
Their strike zone.
Oh, it's going to be above the knee for the particular batter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that would be a challenge for an umpire.
Especially when you're hunched down.
Yeah.
And it happens so fast. But some people say that's not the game. They say the game of baseball, the human error should be a part of it. I don't know.
Isn't that kind of the joy of the game, is that you get drunk and scream at the ref?
And now, I mean, you could scream at the robot, but it doesn't care.
Yeah. Maybe they have to program that in where it like cries a little bit after you yell at it. And then it just goes back to the robot face immediately as soon as you walk away.
Like, give it a hat so it can throw the hat.
Yeah.
Now, you could affect this robot by yelling at it, because probably just the air current that you would create by yelling would just to tumble it all over the place because it's tiny.
This tiny robotic crab is the smallest ever remote-controlled walking robot. Smaller than a flea, the robot can walk, bend, twist, turn, and jump.
It's very cute. It's more like a tick.
It doesn't move super fast. It can move a half a body length every second.
But it can twitch pretty quickly. So the way this is a special kind of memory metal encased in a special kind of glass, which is incredible at that scale.
Yeah.
And they heat different parts of it externally, which makes it scurry around. Now, they said eventually maybe they could put this in our arteries to clean out like plaque and stuff like that.
No.
But how are you going to power it in there?
You're just going to let it dissolve. You know? Like, just let those microplastics go through the
Gamma
bloodstream.
radiation.
I don't know. It's interesting, though.
I like the idea of it, but I don't want it in my blood.
Oh, is this the beginning of nonsense?
This is the beginning of nonsense, and I almost cut this one because the story doesn't really give any details at all. But I figured, we got to leave it
It's
in
a puff piece for
because this is
marketers.
Wendell's thing. How many of these spirits have you tried?
0.
How many would you like to try?
2, maybe 3.
Oh, are you going to tell us which 3?
We tasted the expanded collection of Star Trek wines and found them ... wanting, according to Ars Technica. There's a picture, but it didn't describe which one they are. Okay, so I think it's and the people in the chat are probably going to correct me.
This one has the Federation logo, so this is branded. Are all these official?
Yeah. From Paramount. Well, the first one is supposed to be is like Romulan ale, and then Klingon blood wine, and then one of those is probably Aldebaran whiskey.
The one in the middle is definitely wine.
That's from Picard's vineyard, right? Probably.
Oh, Chateau Picard.
Yeah.
Bajoran spring wine and Cardassian Canar. So that might be all of them.
So they tasted them, and they brought John Delancey there because they needed a press release.
Yeah, this is a marketing piece.
John Delancey's a very nice person in person, but you can definitely tell he's had enough of the Star Trek stuff.
Why is this picture here?
Meanwhile, the Sauvignon Blanc is the one that's blah blah blah, because there's Cardassian Canar that's the far right one.
Which ones would you pick?
Probably the Chateau Picard, probably the Bajoran spring wine, and maybe the blood wine.
Going hard on the wines.
Yeah. Canar was always depicted as almost like an alcoholic maple syrup in Deep Space Nine. Nobody liked Canar, except the Cardassians.
Well, they are influencers. I'm surprised that other people didn't pick up on it.
Keeping up with the Cardassians.
It's a very different show.
Well, electric vehicles are hot right now, and if you have an old car company that you can drag back out of the grave and beat a little bit more, that poor dead horse, now's the time to do it. Turn it into an EV.
DeLorean is back for the future with a new EV.
There it is.
Gullwing doors.
It looks kind of nice. The other picture is much less. Everybody wants you to click to.
You have such strong opinions on cars. What do you think about this?
I don't see this angle. I think this looks like an eclipse. I think it looks like garbage. Do they have a front shot?
Not from the straight on.
No front shot.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about it.
I bet it would get you from point A to point B.
I don't know. Do you know the history of the DeLorean?
Yeah. Well, you might have some other stops between there.
But you can just buff a dent out of it. How cool is that?
I don't know if that's true for the new ones.
No, it definitely was painted.
They're going to be all carbon fiber and
yeah. 3D print your own replacement side panels. That'd be cool.
Well, we have a lot of problems in the world right now, and I think probably toward the top, and we don't like to admit this, mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health is a big issue right now, and I think that is probably what explains this.
Catholic exorcists say they feel overwhelmed by overload of cases. I was surprised to learn that the current pope officially endorsed exorcism. It was a bit of a taboo before, but the article also had specific numbers of exorcists per geographic location. There's like 9 in Ireland. Got to keep all the castles poltergeist free, I guess.
Oh, the snakes. Got to get the snakes out.
Yeah, I think
just like last week, cloudy with a chance of Satan.
We certainly have a lot of evidence that the mental health situation is deteriorating rapidly.
Certainly in the U.S., yeah.
And we're worldwide. And I think that's just a byproduct.
I certainly feel a little more unhinged.
You think maybe there's a demon in there?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just regular old mental illness.
Now, Krista, do you feel like, let's just say that, us, the two of us, do you feel like that we should be more educated about menstruation?
Maybe a little, but I don't know if I would trust a breakfast cereal to educate you.
I think I'm insulted that you assume my level of knowledge on menstruation.
You didn't know anything about breastfeeding the other day.
For all you know, those are totally unrelated.
Period Crunch cereal wants to normalize menstruation talk at the breakfast table. Please don't. I don't have a problem. I have a uterus. I'm menstruating right now, but it's gross. It's like talking about sneezing or pooping at the breakfast table. Why is this necessary?
They claim that people need to be more aware of, I guess, how hard it is.
Somebody did a video skit of the lady that was feeding her cat on the airline.
Oh, she's breastfeeding the cat.
And it was somebody turned it into a skit, and it's amazing. It's a work of art. It's one for the ages.
What do they taste like?
I think it's a berry, like a raspberry.
Of course it is.
It should taste more irony, I think. What's the iron content?
So they say if periods were truly normalized, then they wouldn't be off this table or off any. So are we rejecting the discussion of it anywhere?
Some people do get really squeamish about it, which I don't really understand. Like, I'm sure some people in the comments will be weird about this.
You know,
Not many, but a few.
Here's the thing about it. You know, you talk about like mentioning taboo subjects. For sure, the cereal is going to turn your poop a weird color.
Oh, absolutely.
You think you can talk about that at the next breakfast?
Yeah, see, like, it's weird that you would pick a breakfast cereal. Because it's like that you're eating.
What meal would you associate?
I wouldn't, like, why meals at all? It's clearly just designed to sell cereal that tastes like raspberries or whatever.
Well, our next story is also about meals that are designed to do something other than to feed you. In this case, they're a political statement.
Finland MP calls for boycott of Turkish kebabs, but he's approved Kurdish kebabs. This is, of course, because of the EU is considering adding a new member, and
NATO.
or NATO, and well, EU too. And Turkey wants some things from Finland, and Finland is quietly telling Turkey no.
Yeah, basically they want them to hand over the Kurds that are living in Finland, who they don't like. Also, Turkey's new name, have you seen that?
Turkey.
I think it's pronounced the same, right?
Is it? If you're Turkish, let us know.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
We'll mispronounce it either way. We try not to, but we struggle.
I won't try. I also still say Bombay. Fight me.
What's the... You say
Constantinople.
Iran. Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it?
Yes, Iran. Iran is the...
Iran,
the
yeah.
country version.
I struggle with that, so...
I was expecting more details here.
There's enough details to be upset.
It's FingerLakesDailyNews.com. What a URL. I'm very disappointed in your reporting here.
Wayne County man arrested for too many wildlife feeders. How many is too many? Like 29? How old was the dude? 71.
Was he not cleaning them? Were they concerned about bird flu?
No, other people in the neighborhood were complaining about the number of animals.
Oh, wow. What a nightmare that must be to have to watch birds.
Guarantee you this guy's lived there since the dawn of time. His house was probably originally in the middle of a forest and is
Slowly,
now and is now surrounded by a subdivision, and this is just the latest escalation in a series of terrible, terrible things.
Something like that happened in Louisville, where a woman was making like a native pollinator habitat, and there were paths and stuff through it, and so she was maintaining it, but people complained about it, and the city's making her take it out.
So they thought there were too many insects? Is that?
They didn't like the way it looked. Like, literally, there was no other reason other than it doesn't look like a lawn.
Well, I'm trying to remember. So for sure, the UK tried to ban this. Australia did.
Yeah.
There was one more recently. You remember what that one was? Might have been two more. Country after country steps up to try this, only to find out that it technically is not possible. But it doesn't stop them. I guess politically, it's just easy to get a certain audience with this.
Scene reports that J.D. Vance, the porn hunter, is coming for your porn. He wants to ban it. It should be illegal.
He should hunt his own book, which was just poverty porn about Appalachia.
Yeah, not very good.
So he claims that between porn and abortion, that the entire family structure has been destroyed.
It definitely doesn't have anything to do with having to work two jobs to maintain a standard of living, and the collapse of the economy and the education system, and
and the state taking over the raising of your children.
Who would want to have children in this environment?
So many people. That's the question I ask myself every morning. And I had a lot of questions about why this man would be doing this. It turns out it's kind of like like collecting bottles. Like you can sell these for $1 or $2 a piece. And so this was his version of, homeless income supplement.
Man dies searching for frisbees in Florida lake amid alligator warnings. So a gator was involved in the death of a man at a disc golf course where people often seek frisbees to sell. The frisbees end up in the lake. You're supposed to leave them where they lay.
Because of the gators.
But they're worth $2. Do you know how much fentanyl I can buy with 5 frisbees?
We don't know.
This is a very Florida story.
Also, they said the gator was involved. So I guess it probably got him and drowned him, but then didn't eat him.
Maybe.
Yeah, they probably didn't eat. I'm imagining involved, but there was also a swamp monster. But they just didn't mention it in the article.
Yes, it was Swamp Thing versus a gator, and the guy didn't make it.
Swamp Thing had a gator on a leash. Get him, boys, get him. These are my frisbees.
How's Swamp Thing going to be able to buy groceries?
And cheese. Cheese is one of those weird things like champagne, where it's not actually the kind of cheese that they say it is, unless it's made in the town that's named after that. And so, how do you prove that?
Parmigiano.
Parmigiano.
Parmigiano Reggiano.
Parmigiano Reggiano. Makers are embedding tiny trackers into the rind to fight cheese fraud.
I bet the guy at the cheese counter could tell me all about this, but I won't talk to him.
What was it? The tomato people are taking notes.
Oh, I know what type you're talking about. I've grown them before. San Marzano.
Yeah, the San Marzano people are taking notes. They're ruthless.
I've never been able to. I found them one year and I grew them and they were fantastic. They produced really well. They tasted great.
That was
and
not a San Marzano.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't grown there. But I've never been able to find them again. Apparently, they found out that our local greenhouse was selling them and they were like, no, never find them.
You can't just buy San Marzano and then grow your own. It's not allowed.
That's exactly the kind of thing we need as we go into food shortages.
Yeah. I'm having to grow fantastic tomatoes instead.
We know who would have loved to have some San Marzanos after 30 years of living off of termite larvae.
Missing pet tortoise found in attic 30 years later. Still alive and well.
Are you telling me that? Oh, are you telling me I could just have a tortoise in my attic to deal with termite problems?
But here's the question. Where was it pooping?
In the attic.
Yeah,
30
probably
years of
poop.
tortoise poop?
In the attic.
What was it drinking?
Probably an ecosystem.
You think it could get enough moisture from the termites?
It apparently was.
I mean, yeah,
there
it's
was
alive.
Maybe there's like condensation or something. What a terrible life.
Maybe he looks really haggard for a turtle and we just can't tell.
The lady that lost him said when she was a kid said that he had grown. So not only did he survive,
He thrived.
he thrived.
What if he was supposed to be one of those Galapagos turtles? Was like this,
Massive.
but he's so stunted.
Oh. How do you not go in your attic for 30 years?
It was an old man and or an old couple, and they just got old. And after he died, the family was going through the stuff, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's the turtle!" And the mom was like, "Oh, that's my turtle." And he's living with the kids now, and the mom comes and visits him every day.
Wow.
Impressive. Very impressive.
What do you think's going through his mind? Because it was 30 years of rough times, and now everybody's just pouring over him and feeding him all kinds of fruits and vegetables. Like, he has to think, like, what happened?
Am I retired now? Is this
Am I
retired?
dead? Is this the afterlife? He probably doesn't have a concept of the afterlife. He's only got a reptile brain. Well, it's over. The entertainment is over.
I'm glad it's over because I'm so tired of hearing about it.
I didn't follow this at all, and for somebody that doesn't have any idea who the Camille lady is, this didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So Camille is one of Depp's attorneys, and she seems to be pretty. I think Camille's getting a TV show. I think Camille's going to be like the next Judge Judy or something like that.
She's done. She should just go straight to YouTube. The YouTube lawyers that were commenting on the trial will probably, I mean,
Making plenty of money too.
yeah.
And of course, she is very beautiful. That's a big part of it. She's beautiful. She's a rock star lawyer. She's young. So, of course, all of the Depp supporters have latched onto her as a hero figure.
Johnny Depp fans want his attorney Camille Vasquez as Mira in Aquaman 2. Yeah, I thought.
Why do they want to tank her career by associating her with Aquaman too?
You know, they said in that trial that Aquaman had been the most popular DC movie up until that point.
Really?
It wasn't terrible.
I don't think I've seen it.
It was okay.
But she was in Justice League, right? For a couple minutes.
Maybe.
I've seen her in that, I think. But yeah, Camille's going to do big things.
She's a lawyer, not an actress, I guess.
Joe Rogan said he wanted Camille and Johnny to get married.
It's so weird when people ship like real people. It's one thing to do it with like a fictional character, but with real people, it's strange.
I mean, they're basically fictional characters at this point, right? It's
They
so
feel
over
like
the top.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
How strange is that though? How dehumanized do you feel?
Oh, I bet she feels great.
They feel
She's on top of the world.
they
right
feel way too perceived.
Do you think?
They're probably into that though.
Do you think at any point during this trial, Johnny offered her drugs?
Oh, probably.
I think I read somewhere that Heard was appealing, so maybe she still gets to work on this.
I don't think she's got any hope.
She's got no
of
cash,
appealing.
I wouldn't think.
No, I mean the lawyer. The lawyer will still get to work on this.
Oh, Camille?
Yeah.
I bet she's making a healthy hourly rate. Well, we had some climate change activism. I don't understand how this was supposed to help lower the global temperature exactly.
Man disguised as old woman attacks the Mona Lisa with a cake.
I kind of thought this was awesome.
Well, it's gonna be put behind glass now.
It was
It already
already
was.
behind glass.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Nothing-
he just smeared on the glass.
Yeah, this
'Cause
accomplished nothing.
It's had acid and stuff thrown on it in the past. Like they know what they're doing to keep it safe.
Well, at least it was just cake.
They actually had footage of the guys squeegeeing off the cake.
Yeah. Did you see in terms of like climate activism? I think this was like a month ago now. Someone burned themselves on the foot of the Supreme Court.
That's a
Like burned themselves alive.
that's a common thing in Asia.
Yeah. It's the first time it's happened here, and that's actually probably the reason they put the barriers up at the Supreme Court, because they were like, we really don't want people killing themselves.
Yeah, that's
It's dark, yeah.
You know what? I think that points to some mental health issues.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit. Well, North Korea, they got their first case of the vid.
So they're saying.
It's been so long since we've talked about it.
Yeah.
But
And then a million.
yeah, and then all of a sudden it was a big problem, kind of like monkeypox, like it just out of nowhere.
It just popped up. Yeah.
Here we are.
We're up to 1,003 cases in the U.S. today.
For monkeypox?
Yeah.
Wow.
But luckily, North Korea does have its own vaccine. I don't think this is one of the known ones, right? This is what they have. They came up with their own. And Kim Jong is, he's trying to get people to adopt it. Although that's weird because it's not actually available to anybody except the military.
North Korea is calling its vaccine an immortal potion of love from Kim Jong-un.
Now, does that make me immortal or does it just make my love immortal?
I think the potion itself is immortal.
That doesn't make any sense.
Everything about this. Is this just like something that's lost in translation?
No, I think it's just you're not allowed to question when he says crazy stuff.
Strange.
And finally, we have, more of the trend of mental illness.
Woman tries a first proper meal after 23 years of only eating potato chips. She's developed multiple sclerosis, which is probably not related to 23 years of only eating potato
But
chips.
she was like, maybe I should start eating stuff to stay healthy.
I'm not sure we can say that because I don't think we have any data of someone eating potato chips for
But
this amount of time.
Cheese and onion potato
Multiple
chips.
sclerosis is an autoimmune disorder, right? Where your immune system's too
don't-
active.
yeah, I
I
don't know
wouldn't
much
think
about
that
it.
you eating like crap would make your immune system go into overdrive.
But so all she has eaten is breakfast cereal and bread with butter and potato chips as a sandwich.
How is she not dead?
She's mixing fat and carbs every single meal. And yet she looks normalish.
Pretty thin, yeah.
Although she did, I think she's like you, Krista. She said she just didn't eat much of anything. Because you eat garbage too.
I do eat garbage.
You just eat
I'm
tiny
trying to
amounts
eat
of it.
less garbage, but yeah, I still eat pretty badly.
That was when she was in high school.
Here she is actually trying real food.
Oh wait, or this was
She's eating
This
potato
was the
chips.
old one.
Oh, okay. I got that mixed up.
And here we have like the just,
No, she's eating potato chips in this photo. Those are potato chips.
I think those are waffle fries.
Hey, waffle fries is an improvement over
It's still-
potato chip.
It's still fried potato.
Maybe that is an older picture. There she is as a baby.
Apparently, so they call this like the white phase with kids, because I went through this apparently, is what my mom told me. Like, I wouldn't eat anything with color. Like, nothing green,
Wow.
nothing blue, nothing red. I would just eat like chicken nuggets and like macaroni and cheese.
You can't do that in 2022, Krista.
Well,
You need more foods.
that
of
was like
color.
in the 90s, so.
Foods of color.
They said that when she was a baby, even before she had teeth, she would just like put the potato chip in her mouth and wait till it softened up enough to eat.
I don't know why some people are like, I mean, I was picky as a kid, but not to this extreme. Like, I would eat different foods, but only a limited amount. She only ate potato chips for the
I
most
feel
part.
like when a new restaurant comes to town, it's mobbed for the first 30 days because people are constantly trying to find something new.
Right, yeah.
Like you want a new flavor.
Well, like Wendell, you said when your mom moved here, she was super excited by like all the Asian restaurants because she didn't get that.
One of my friends from Eastern Kentucky, when we came to college, he would not eat any of the like weird stuff. And we were getting Chinese food. And he's like, I'm not eating that. That's stupid. And we made him do it one time. From then on, he wanted nothing but Chinese food.
Yeah, it's great.
It was
it's so
crazy.
salty. Why would you not like it?
I remember the first time I had curry, and it was like, This is magical.
Yeah.
I don't know, but what a great, you know what? It would be so much fun to date that girl because you could constantly be taking her to new restaurants.
Blow
and
her
just,
mind,
Yeah,
yeah.
just introduce her to new stuff.
Like just taking her to Taco Bell and be like, wow.
It's like, oh my God, we're going to go to the Cold Stone Creamery today. You have no idea what's going on
She
there.
didn't like anything sweet, is what I found. I guess cereal is kind of sweet, but like,
Let's try a bloomin' onion from Outback.
Wow. Although how terrible that like all of a sudden she gets a taste for all these new delicious foods as inflation just prices them completely out of it.
Yeah, it's scary. $100 of groceries is like 3 things.
Oh, here you can try one bite of filet mignon. You can't ever have it again.
we're not going to be Kroger people. We're going to be Save-A-Lot people.
Yeah.
Is that going to destroy the big chains?
Maybe.
We'll see. Scary times. All right. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thanks for hanging out. Use your Linode credits.
And you can still check out season 2, episode 1 of Picard Watch Along on Patreon and Floatplane. And we'll do a podcast at some point in the near future.
Oh, yeah. We got to do, and probably another episode of that.
Woo.
All right, bye.